and welcome to the second episode of our Festive Celebration series, brought to you by the Business of Data and Cranium. This week, I am sitting down with another three fantastic leaders from the data and analytics space who are going to tell me a bit about what is on their data and analytics wish list. They're also going to take the chance to look back over 2021 and think about some of the biggest challenges and opportunities they've been able to capitalize on. And then they're going to take a look ahead of them at 2022. And they're going to offer some advice as to what you as an audience member should be thinking about as we step into the new year. We would love for you to share this live stream to the rest of your network. And we do encourage you to pop into the comments and let your thoughts be known on our content and whether perhaps some of those wish list items are on your wish list as well. But for now, let's dive in. Great to see you. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me as a part of your Christmas special today.
You are so welcome. And I've got to start. I mean, I want to ask you about how your year has been, but I think I've got to start with the fact that you brought an array of hats to this interview, which I think is just beyond dedication. I'm loving what the leaders are bringing to this series. So thank you very much. I think what you chose is perfect. I love the elf that matches the Santa hat. So that is fantastic. But let's start the conversation here, Jenny. How's your year been?
It has been quite a roller coaster year, I must say. Working virtually has kind of opened up a lot of opportunities for me. It's allowed me to spread myself a lot more. And I'm starting to really see the uptake in the use of data analytics from areas that I think previously wouldn't have thought that data was going to be important. And especially now that I'm working in healthcare, actually, they realize they're sitting on a treasure trove of data. But how do they start harvesting the insights of that data? So there's a lot we need to do around kind of data management, data governance, metadata. So I think it has been a difficult year, but it will be an exciting next few years too, as we start going on this data journey.
Yeah, wonderful. And I think it's awesome that you frame it as a treasure trove of data that they're sat on, because I know so many organizations and industries, it's a lack of data, but to hear that actually there is that wealth of data, and that's really exciting. And as you say, lots of hard work ahead of you to make that useful and valuable as well. But that's exciting. So the main question I've got for you today, Jenny, is what is on your data and analytics wish list?
Okay, besides a wide array of hat options that I have, my data wish list is I wish that data was like this cupcake here, nicely encapsulated into this delectable cupcake. So we have a layer of cake, which is made up of carefully curated ingredients of the best quality. It has very precise measurements that are validated and quality controlled before it's added into the mixing bowl. All the ingredients are then integrated together by expert engineers before a gentle baking in a clean, secure, controlled environment. Then we have the icing, hiding the complexity of the data engineering pipeline and data hosting platform that is the cake, a cloud-like, visually pleasing layer for users to consume the underlying data. Now I am going to add these sprinkles to represent the diversity of data, and the cherry on top, or in this case, a raspberry. I couldn't quite find cherries in the shops yesterday. I think the cherry season must have ended. So this raspberry, it completes the picture with great data visualization. So Merry Christmas, and I hope this data cupcake gives you as much of a sugar rush as it does for me.
I love that, Jenny. That's absolutely fantastic. Before we hit record, when you said that you had some props, I did not expect you to pull out a cake, and I'm glad I can mute myself so you don't hear my stomach rumbling. And I think that is such a great visualization of the challenges that so many of us are going through, right from the start of having the accurate, good quality ingredients, obviously referring to data quality there, right through to the visualization at the end. Because, I mean, food is such a great example. We know that we eat with our eyes. You can have the most wonderful ingredients, but if it's all mishmashed together, people aren't going to choose that one. And I think that's a really strong example of data visualization. If you've got a dashboard that's really confusing, really complex, not built with the user in mind, no matter how many insights you've got in there, no matter how delicious that would be for the user to use, if it's not accessible, unfortunately it's not going to be used. And I mean, talk me through a little bit more about the cupcake analogy, why that is so relevant to you today, and why you would like a Santa-like figure to come and sort that out for you.
Well, I think a bit more than Santa's required to kind of sort out the data mess that we have sometimes. We built up all these data lakes, and now we're sitting on a lot of data swamps. So a lot of magic there is required, a lot of else, I think, behind to come and do a lot of hard work there. But I think I used the cupcake because I thought, it's something that everybody understands. And it's something that you take a lot of pleasure. It's the whole user experience of it. What people don't understand is the effort that goes into making a good cupcake. And sometimes, even though a lot of things can look really pretty, actually it could be a dirty, messy swamp underneath. So you have to kind of start from the basics. How do I do this properly? How do I create it properly? How do I ensure it's done in the right environment? And so, but everything is nice and tidy, just in a cupcake like this.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's so wonderful. And I think, leaning on previous conversations we've had together over the last year, you are still able to access these conversations on the Business of Data platform as well. Because we spoke earlier in the year in our festival, didn't we, Jenny, about storytelling? And I think what you've done there is such a brilliant example of storytelling, how the layperson who's never stepped foot in a data analytics space before can understand through your analogy and through your story the challenges you're experiencing, increasing that data awareness, that data literacy, and data empathy as well, understanding that. Because again, most people have had the chance to bake some cupcakes in their life, so they'd understand that if you don't have that clean environment of an oven, that you whack up the temperature and it all goes wrong, how that can be comparable to data analytics as well. I mean, have you got any advice you could share with the audience on breaking down these key messages, as you have done so effectively, for senior leadership or for the wider business or whoever it is that they're trying to communicate with?
I think inside, deep down, we all want to do things the right way. We all do things properly. And a lot of times it's about common sense. And for me, it's never about rushing it. It is always about how do I build the best quality. And I always think that having that robust infrastructure, that robust architecture is the ones that sets us up for a much better future. Like, I don't want to be fixing the plane while it's flying. So let me build a proper plane in the first place. So I think as senior leaders, one, we have to understand what our staff need, what our customers needs, what does our audience need, and saying, okay, now let's build something that works for them, that is flexible enough, but also robust enough. And we start layering on top of that. A lot of times senior management like to rush through the front to go, get me the insight onto that data, get me that machine learning model. But actually, yes, that might be 3 years down the line because you haven't got your data in order. So when I ever approach something, I say, let's make sure we do it properly. Let's not build something as a tactical solution, because we know 2 years down the line, that's going to be a strategic solution. And then you have built up your technical debt of trying to fix it. And then you end up with a data swamp, and you end up with machine learning algorithms that maybe are very biased. So I always think quality down to when you mix the ingredients for this cake, it has to be done properly.
Absolutely. And I think what you've done there, and I just want to pull that thread a little bit, is that you've given the context. You've not just gone, no, because I think that there has been a case in the past where when these sorts of questions have been asked, can I have the insights on that? You could quite rightly say, no, you can't. Because of, but the fact that you're continuing that conversation to give that context as to why, helping them understand, then they're usually, for many leaders I hear, you then get the how can I help question, or what can we do to better this, and you can develop that relationship and collaboration going forward. So always good to delve into the storytelling art when it comes to data analytics. Now, Jenny, before I let you go today, although I am very much enjoying looking at you with your hat on today, so I want to extend this interview, but I shan't do that. Is what are you going to be looking out for 2022? What are you going to be thinking about, and what would you encourage our audience to be pondering as they walk their way into the new year?
Okay, so as this is the last question, and you did ask me to wear my other hat, and because it sounds like a very serious question, I went up on the other hat just for
serious
you.
Serious questions do require serious hats.
So okay. What do we need to think about as we move on into the new year? I think, okay, this doesn't look quite right, doesn't it? No, this is horrible. Okay, switch to the other hat. Go back to this one. Okay. For the new year, I think actually for the last 2 years, given the pandemic, a lot of people have started dabbling in data analytics. We are now getting on a journey, we're understanding value of data, and we're all utilizing the myriad of courses that are available online. So, but how do we start bringing these data scientists up to an enterprise level where actually they can take it as part of their career journey? So I think let's kind of support the future data scientists and understanding the fundamentals of what data is, because yes, you can parachute yourself in, you can start playing around with it and start thinking you're a data expert, but actually there's a foundation. Again, I come back to quality. It's building the right foundation for these people, because they are going to be training future generations down the line on how we can utilize data in the best way. So I think it's about training our next generation of data scientists, and live as we climb. As we see people who are interested in data, people who have the SME expertise, but maybe don't understand that much about data, bring them along the data journey with us.
Absolutely wonderful. Well, Jenny, I'm glad that you wore multiple hats, because often when we speak, I know you speak from multiple perspectives. So I feel like that's a very good visualization for the experience you bring to these conversations. So thank you very much for that. And of course, I wish you a healthy and happy New Year and festive season. And I look forward to speaking with you very soon.
Thank you. It was lovely being on this.
Hello, Mark. How are you doing?
Oh, very well, thank you. Very well. In the Christmassy spirit, getting to the family and the nonsense and having to put up with people I don't like because I have Gypsy's Christmas. All that stuff.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to say it right now to the audience that it's actually you to thank for this series of interviews, because it was in fact your idea of bringing thought leaders together in a Christmassy type way, talking about all these fun things. So thank you for the inspiration of this content.
Well, we need to find ways to keep data light-hearted and fun, don't we? And I think this time of year, why not think about what we'd like to have in our world? Data.
Absolutely. Now, before we get on to that question, I do want to ask you, how has your last year been?
It's been interesting, I think. I should probably expand on that, shouldn't I? It's been delving into the world of UDAs, the use of Excel sheets across the application, trying to get people's mindsets to that these are miniature databases. And we need to think about the data that people are creating using them the same way we look at all our other data. Doing a bit more work on establishing our data owners across the organisation, data stewards. So progression, I'd say it's a maturing of a data governance function.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's fair to say, and I think that's from the people I speak to. That's the state of play for a lot of organisations now. It's really taking what people had to do, maybe with regulation, into something more proactive, if you like.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, a positive spin on your year for sure, talking growth and all of those fun things. Now, obviously, the main part of our conversation today is talking about what's on your data wish list. And I have mentioned it in a few interviews already that I feel like I should have put in a clause to say I can't guarantee that a Santa-like figure can deliver these for you. But I would love to know what is on your data and analytics wish list.
Well, I was rather banking that you will deliver this. I think it's quite a simple request. It's nothing too arduous. All I'd like is for a little packet, please, of 10 data pixies who can actually come and fix the data. We're doing a lot of work on analysing and scorecarding and KPIs and understanding root cause analysis. But it always eventually comes up to how do we actually fix the data internally? And this is always the challenge in an organisation with people got their day jobs. They're trying to work with customers or sales or marketing, developing. How do we actually get the data fixed? Mm-hmm. And that's not always as easy as it sounds. And I'd like one of the data pixies to be a leader so they could actually explain to senior management the reality of just fix it. Mm-hmm. You don't want this work. You've got a great data warehouse. Go and fix the data. So yes, a packet of data pixies to actually fix the data, please.
I absolutely love that. Now, it doesn't surprise me that that's on your wish list. I know there's a lot of leaders who'll be watching today that'll agree that they would love some, as you say, data fixing pixies to come along and fix those issues. So why is that on the list? Is it a case, and I thought that was really interesting that you say about having a leader within said pixie gang to really kind of walk through the challenge of, it isn't just a click your fingers, right, okay, let's spend a week on this and we'll get it done. It's a very big process, and I think it's interesting you also place that in the context that everyone within the organization has a full-time job. They've got other things to be doing. So talk me through a little bit why that's on your list.
Let's think. It's there are many reasons why we have data issues in an organization. And the general perception seems to be it's fat-fingered input. People who just put in wrong data because they're stupid. Generally, when we do our root cause analysis, we find a lot of the problems are down to system inefficiencies. Perhaps we have instructions that are in place, but they haven't been updated as systems have grown, screens have changed. Possibly previous instances of instructions haven't been taken out, so there's conflicting instructions in the system. Now, this generally requires project work. So to fix the data problem, it may well be rewrite a whole list of instructions. It might be redesign a screen to be more up to date with the data we're capturing. Now, I think this is something we need to get through that, and it goes back to this isn't a project. There's no end date. We're constantly growing. There's constantly more challenges for more data required, more data being gathered. So I think it's to get that message across that a lot of work, actions will now spawn out of this thing that we have created, from having good lists of our data quality problems, from having a data warehouse in place. We've implemented tools. We always talk tooling and technologies. We understand, everyone really understands it's the people and processes, but it's those supporting processes that take time. I think I'm finding this a lot with the UDA work. I can find 200 spreadsheets in my organization that might be used in business processes. Now, it's not just a case of putting them into better technology or putting a password on them. Sometimes each one of those could be a whole project to build a system to give the business what it needs. Because remember, the business created a spreadsheet to help it move on with something because it wasn't getting its support from an IT function. Maybe that was too cumbersome or the systems weren't efficient enough. So I think it's understanding that remediation is a whole big spectrum of work. That can be project, low-hanging fruit, very quick fixes sometimes. But it needs to be understood, I think, that if you're going to go on this, you've gone on this journey of data governance and data quality and data management, to actually deliver to that, you've really got to make sure your people and processes have got the support and the investment, if you like, to make it happen, to actually get real effect out of it. So we fix things properly, and we don't just end up with little sticking plaster solutions that get out of that problem when the data is being used, but they're not fixing it at that, because that's in the legacy system. We can't change that. We'll just fix this output so it makes that problem go away. In 6 months, the same problems come up for a different demand.
That's so funny that you say about sticking plasters, because immediately what came to my mind then was putting a band-aid over a broken bone. And we know that for a broken bone, you need to have the exam, you need to have the x-ray, and then you need to have a course of treatment. And I think it's quite a good analogy for this, that actually you need to spend time to x-ray the data, to understand the business, to understand the processes that are currently in place, what people are buying into and what they're not, because often I think we're quite binary in the fact that either people are not bought in or they are, when actually it's deeper than that. It's a case of actually we really like this thing, we like this dashboard, or we like this way of processing, but it's this part that we don't like. It's more complex and it's more holistic that we need to view it. So I'm glad that analogy came to both
That's
of us.
brilliant. Very well put. Yes, Catherine, that's it.
Amazing. So looking ahead to 2022, what are the big things that are going to be on your horizon? What are you going to be thinking about as a leader?
It's the constant of education and awareness throughout an organization. I think we've done all the work on strategies and frameworks. That's great. but they're pretty dry and dusty documents. And they're really read by very few people. So I'm going to have a big focus next year on the communication side of this. How do we get our data management brand in the company now spread to everybody in the organization? So we'll be looking at newsletters that go out on a regular basis with our own brand that we create around that. Think about how we get into induction training for new staff, how we get data in that conversation. So when people join the organization, they understand how we perceive. Get some series of internal videos out. Perhaps hold a couple of surgeries or workshops, if you like, for people to approach us with general questions. So I think increase our internal presence, and through that increase the network of data stewards to try and act as our conduits, if you like, out to the groups. We're normally in data a centralized department. I think when we've had previous chats and I've spoken about this ivory tower mentality we have to destroy. We've got to be out there and become approachable, become really seen as that service department. Because in all honesty, we've used this regulatory stick for so long, and it does become stale after a time. Oh, another regulatory requirement we have to respond to. Really, we want to start coming across as here's how we can help you. Here's how we can and it goes back to let's use our data. How can we help you get something out of it? So I think that's the real achievement for me next year. I think is to get that communication strategy actually up and running.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting actually you use the word brand as well, because I think this is something that so many data leaders are considering is actually the marketing behind what you're doing, and it's so important that you do get that buy-in, and as you say, using stewards to continue that championship beyond what you have accountability towards, and that message is continued further. And yes, in previous conversations, just to signpost to our audience, we do have a podcast episode together which you can access through our website businessofdata.com/podcast, or you can head over to Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen, and find the Business of Data podcast there and listen to said episode with Mark. It's a very, very good one, and of course you can subscribe and listen to all 7 seasons we're in now. So please do that. Well, Mark, thank you for giving us this idea. It's an incredibly fun thing to end my year on. And actually, I think you've inspired me. I might set up a little Survey Monkey poll for the best leaders festive outfit, because that shirt is rather wonderful and I think you might win it. So I might do that. But for now, thank you so much. Have a safe and healthy festive season, and I'll speak to you real soon.
And yourself as well. Thanks very much and have a great Christmas.
So great to see you. How are you doing?
Doing well, Kat. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Well, happy holidays. I'm so excited that we get to connect at the end of the year, but I want to start off by asking how your year has been.
Yeah, it's been a wild year, I think, for all of us in the world, right? We're hoping to be beyond everything that started in 2020, and unfortunately it just kept plodding along for us. But no, it's been a fantastic year. A lot of, like a lot of retailers, a lot of great digital transformation, evolution continuing to happen and drive forth as we try to serve our customer in all the new ways they need to be served or want to be served, given what has continued to go on in 2021 from 2020. And so, yeah, it's been an incredible year with all that growth and all that, I guess it's excitement, right? It's all the new data sets coming into fruition and needing to be made whole, and then getting out the reporting for the executives to understand how have all these initiatives gone.
Absolutely. I think if I could do a bit of sentiment analysis through all the interviews that we've conducted, growth is definitely one of the key words that's right up there for so many of our leaders. So I'm excited to hear that that's been something that you've experienced as well. Now, obviously, the main aim of the game here today is to find out what is on your data and analytics wish list.
Oh, boy. More compute, more memory, more clean data, and just more time to do it all, right? I think that's the other thing is just there's so many things especially as your data sets get richer and richer, and you get more of this, enhanced data from all these enhanced digital transformations. It's having the time to be able to explore and solve all the problems that you want to, or that your business leaders want to. So if anyone out there's invented the infinite compute and infinite memory box, let us know. We would be excited to check it out.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I want to dive in a bit deeper as to why those are the things that are top of your wish list. And it's interesting to me that you mentioned about memory. And I think something that's definitely come across this year for so many leaders is the fact that we are collecting more data now than ever before. And it seems to be, I know I've used it in previous interviews, the phrase data everywhere and not a drop to drink. And how are you going to be kind of moving forward in the future to actually maybe honing in on less data? So I'm going to kind of challenge you a little bit and say perhaps it's not a case of having more memory, but rather collecting that right data that's going to be right for you.
Yeah, I think what it turns out to typically be is what you need to be able to do is solve the problems your business has, that are going to help you drive what's best for the customer faster, right? But what's interesting with data is you don't necessarily need to be able to process it all the time. But a lot of the machine learning out there, it's all time series algorithms, right? Or there's some kind of time dimension. So if you're not collecting it now, 3 years from now, when that actually becomes the next strategic thing you need to evaluate, if you're starting from scratch and you have no historical data points, well, then at that point, you're going to say, okay, well, now I need 6 months for my model to get mature. I need 12 months. And so we can start now, we'll start collect. So I think it's a matter of, as far as what you're putting through your engine and what you're focusing your live algorithms and live machine learning on, focus that towards what do we need to solve for the customer and for the business now. Then in the background, keep in mind that strategic roadmap of here's where our company wants to be because this is where we think our customer is going to be. Mm-hmm. What data points will we need to be excellent at that point in time or drive the models that we think are going to be relevant to solve those problems when they come up 2 or 3 years from now? And what data can we start collecting now? Because the memory that's the hard drive memory, that's cheap, right? That's incredibly cheap. It's the RAM and the CPU that's expensive when you're actually exhausting it on algorithms that may or may not benefit your business. So I totally agree with you in that sense where it's what we're running through the algorithm ringer. Focus, be strategic, be all about what your business needs to solve for the customer and itself now. But from a data collection standpoint, find out what are those things that if we start collecting them now, when we come to that point in our strategic roadmap, can we execute well, quickly, because we have enough historical data points collected so that we know our algorithm will be fairly successful fairly quickly.
Yeah, as you say, it's kind of sorting it into two minds. So rather than using all the data in your algorithms, as you say, it's a case of having it there and being able to cherry pick the parts that are useful to that use case, to that strategy. And I'm interested, you mentioned about data collection. You also mentioned about the wish of having more clean data. That would infer that perhaps you've had a bit of a challenge with data quality and cleaning up that data so it's ready for those algorithms. Is that fair to assume?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, right, you never hear a data scientist or a data leader say anything other than 80% of our time at least, right, is data cleansing efforts, right? And it's not that the data isn't necessarily clean in the sense of it's organized, it's relationally the way I need it. It's that, but for this algorithm to take advantage of it, it needs to be in this table format, it needs to be like this, it needs to be like that, right? So, or I need to merge it with all these other data sets, and so now just getting that cleansed and having an automated process to feed that on a regular rate, those are the things that become challenges. And so for us, it's that type of idea of being able to take the data that is generically clean, but be able to support the processes and the data engineering. And I think that's where you get a lot of the sentiment from data scientists. If I spend most of my time data cleansing, it's engineering repeatable data processes so that if that algorithm needs to run every 15 minutes, every 5 days, whatever series it is, that the data every time it needs to run is there, ready and go and cleansed repeatedly without manual intervention. And I think that's the challenge that people face most often. And so it's how do you build up the data engineering infrastructure? Because these aren't your regular old school SQL DBA data engineers who make the typical BI reports incredibly lightning fast and very efficient. It's I need a data engineer who can script incredibly well such that we can go out to third-party websites and find out what competitors are doing, or we can go out to get third-party data sources that have different, let's use weather as a cherry pick an example, right? And not all weather stations are created the same. So how do you build good imputation processes and other things like that? And that's a special, it's like that specialized data engineering skill set that, we need to build more robust teams of those types of expertise, as opposed to just hiring data scientists and then saying to them, well, be a data engineer too. So it's trying to balance that. And I think that's where it really comes into play.
Oh, it sounds like there's a couple more wishes within that for your wish list. Now, I know there's definitely somewhere, if I was to Google it, I'm sure there's a Santa's wish list of kind of the most popular toys and tech that all the children of the world are asking for. And I think it'd be quite cool if we could collate all the leaders' data wish lists, because I think there's a few high hitters up on the list in terms of data quality and talent and skills as well, which makes for an interesting delve into what's going on for our community at the moment. But before I let you go today, Sean, I would like to know what you're thinking about ahead of 2022. I mean, what are you looking forward to? Where are you going to be heading?
Yeah, I think 2022 is just going to be as we get all these. As we get more mature data from all the digital transformation going on, it's going to be seeing what the algorithms can tell us, what the machine learning models can do for us, and helping to understand our customers better so that we can serve them better. I think that's where there's going to be a lot of fascinating stuff coming out. Is you go through all these implementations 2021, and all of a sudden now you've got 6, 12, 18 months of data. And so you've got a really robust data set now to really see what kind of efficiencies or improvements you can make for your business. So I think that's going to be really exciting for 2022.
Amazing. Well, Sean, I wish you a healthy and happy holiday season, and I look forward to continue watching your journey into 2022.
Well, thanks so much, Kat. Have a great holiday yourself.